We have with us this morning Mr. Ravi Gururaj, President TiE Bangalore. After spearheading IT industry body NASSCOM's startup program for nearly 4 years, Ravi Gururaj has been appointed as the president of the Indus Entrepreneurs Bangalore. Ravi founded multiple software companies, enjoying 2 exits to NASDAQ companies, promoted an STPI software unit, managed IP telephony products at Intel, and launched Trilogy's GIC. Ravi mentors numerous entrepreneurs, is an active angel investor, a passionate ecosystem evangelist who represents NASSCOM at 100+ events. I'd like to now request Mr. Ravi Gururaj, President TiE Bangalore, to address this gathering. Sir.
Good morning. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. To the dignitaries on the stage, including Secretary Bansal, sir. It's a pleasure to be here to talk to you about my perspective on what I think is an opportunity going forward. I'm going to not use slides. It's early in the morning. I'm going to try and keep your attention with a couple of anecdotes and I hope a slightly different perspective. As I look at the ESDM opportunity that we've had across India over the past few decades, it's always been in my mind a little bit of a chicken and egg situation, which is to really truly have a thriving ESDM ecosystem, you need to have the ecosystem. The ecosystem would include the component manufacturers, the fabs. You need to have also a reasonable sized domestic market to support that. You need to have the right policies, capital, all that available. And I think for whatever reason, that perfect storm has not formed in the last, let's say, 30 years when the opportunity was there. But I think the time is right now. I think the perfect storm is forming for multiple reasons. One is, I think Mr. Krishnamurthy already alluded to this, the bill is high. It's $400 billion. Indian consumers' appetite for electronics, that genie is out of the box, out of the bottle. So their appetite is going to be voracious. And don't forget, there are 1.4 billion of them sitting out there who want to consume. Even if you take a conservative estimate and say, oh, but Ravi, truly it's only about 30-40% that could consume, that is more than any other continent outside of China. So it's a huge market. So that's the first thing. I think that's a domestic market. I think it will support a radical change in the industry. I think the second thing is the real ease of business, the government supportive policies. I think the infrastructure has reached that tipping point. Our ports, our airports, our infrastructure, power, all of that, while it's not perfect, we've still got a long way to go, but I think it's hitting that tipping point. Okay, so a large domestic market, infrastructure hitting the tipping point. I think the flow of capital, a supportive set of policies at both the state and the central government levels. I think with a lot of other new infrastructure, digital infrastructure like GST and all coming online in the next 12 months, I think makes for a perfect storm, right? And you need that egg or you need that chicken, don't know which one. We've not had them both together at once. I think we need to get them both together, right? And I'm hoping we will. The other, I think, huge opportunity is really not necessarily in what we have viewed over the last 20 years as traditional consumer electronics. While we can certainly attack some of that, I actually think there's a huge opportunity for us to surf the next wave and not to miss the IoT wave. In my mind, it's going to be bigger than the consumer wave, industrial IoT and consumer IoT. I think even industrial IoT in the India case is going to be even bigger than, I would say, the consumer IoT wave. We should not miss that. I think there's a whole new ecosystem being formed there. I think the kinds of infrastructure needed are slightly different. While it's all still silicon, it's a little bit different in the mix. Let me tell you why I think it's different in the mix. There's actually a higher, if you look at the value stack, much more of it floats up towards the software layer in IoT, towards the fabric, towards the network, than does towards the silicon. So in some sense, the value to be captured is much higher. And I feel, when you combine India's strength in software development, our talent that's available, then I'll talk about talent in one of the anecdotes I talk about. The ability to do data analytics, the ability to combine that with hardware and high value services. So my vision is you're going to be delivering experiences with electronics. And experiences are going to be a combination of hardware, very intelligent, very possibly small form factor hardware, supported by intelligent connectivity into the cloud, where there's a lot of back-end algos running, combined with some value-added services. It's not going to be all 110% automated as we might think. There will be some human element to a lot of the best experiences out there. And so I think that combination can be delivered out of India for both India and the world brilliantly, in my mind. And I think that's the opportunity we should seize on going forward with the fullest. I think the other big area where we are seeing a big tectonic shift is in the entrepreneurial mindset. From the TiE perspective, we are very focused on helping develop the entrepreneurial ecosystem across our city. Specifically, in my case, I'm the president of the TiE chapter. We have extremely active charter members who are part of IESA, and our own TiE SIG is led by extremely passionate charter members who are helping build the IoT ecosystem here. And I think that's a huge tipping point too. The entrepreneurial mindset, the willingness to go take risks. I think Mr. Krishnamurthy alluded to it too, in terms of college students willing to jump in. But I think, to build something in hardware, there's a reason they call it hardware. It's hard. It's not easy, okay? And I don't mean to say software is easy, but hardware takes a much longer cycle. It takes many more kind of disciplinary skills. It takes more patience. It takes more skilled expertise. You can't just do it the day you graduate from college. And while in some instances it's possible that two blokes in a garage with 2 laptops can build a company, it's rare that you can do it without actually going all the way to manufacturing, right? And then that whole supply chain management, all of that can kill the best 2 young entrepreneurs if they're not adequately helped. So I think, here's the opportunity. You've got entrepreneurial talent, you've got the government aligning, you've got capital coming in, infrastructure that's at the right level possibly with, more improvements coming there. You've got a big domestic market that's forming, and you've got a new market opportunity in IoT. I mean, where it's being redefined, where the types of devices are much more mash-up. And when you have mash-up and not monolith, you have opportunities, entrepreneurial opportunities to jump in. If it's monolith, it's very hard to jump in because you're not going to be part of the ecosystem. Whereas if it's a mash-up ecosystem, you're much more likely to be able to innovate something that's small, jump in there, add the value, add the components. And so that's the huge opportunity in my mind. Now, I wanted to relate 3, stories. Talent. And India has awesome talent. And let me tell you one, there's actually just a very pedantic example of how we could do stuff in ESDM and in electronics, how there's talent that's unbelievable across India. I was going to go on a trip to the US and my iPhone broke down. And that morning, and I was going to take the flight in the evening, and I said, how do I get this fixed? I called the Apple store and they say, we can't fix it in at least a couple of weeks because this part that you need is not there. And I said, are you sure what the part is? He said, whatever the part is, I don't have the part for 2 weeks. So it takes 2 weeks for us to fix this. So then I said, okay, I said, what are my options? Do you have a loaner phone? No, you can come in and buy one. It's $80,000. I was like, do I really want to buy one when it just seems like the headset is not working, right? So I Google, I come up with this store in Koramangala, and I call them and I say, I have this problem. He says, can you tell me what the problem is? And I describe the problem. And 1 second later, I said, I can fix it. I said, how do you know you can fix it? He says, I know the problem. I said, how do you know you have the part? He says, I have the part. I said, are you sure? Because I'm traveling today. I don't want to drive all the way to Koramangala to get this fixed. Are you sure you'll be able to fix this? He says, absolutely, sir. And I don't have any more time to answer your questions. If you'd like to come and get it fixed, please arrive here. So I say, okay. I'm going to take this risk because it sounds like this gentleman knows what he's talking about. And I show up there, and it's a small hovel of a store. I walk up these stairs that I can barely snuggle in up those stairs, up to his repair center. And he takes my iPhone, he looks at it, does one simple test, and he says, I can fix it. It's going to be 9,000 rupees. I said, 9,000 rupees. And he says, sir, you know, your iPhone, you spent 80,000 rupees on it. This is only 9,000. It's a bargain. It's a piece of deadwood otherwise, right? So I said, okay. I hand over my credit card to the lady there at the counter. She charges. I said, you've already charged the credit card. How do you know you'll fix it? Sir, I've guaranteed it's fixed. And then as soon as his card is charged, a little, Ziploc bag arrives with a small part. He flips open the iPhone. He replaces the part, he puts it back together, does one test, and he says, you're done. 10 minutes, all of 10 minutes, right? I'm done. And I tested and it works. It's brilliant. Here I am. I tried to call the Apple store. They couldn't service me. And here's this gentleman who in 5 minutes fixes my problem. So I said, I'm very interested in this. I said, you've got my 9,000 bucks. Don't worry, I'm not trying to get a refund or a discount. I want to know who runs this place. And I want to understand how it operates. He says, I run the place. I said, you're the owner? Yeah, I'm the owner. And he just works the desk. He says, so what's the business model here, And, how do you have this part for me? He says, sir, what my business model is I buy brand new Apple products. And I have a team upstairs that takes them apart into parts. Literally takes every single part into parts. I do reverse manufacturing in some sense. I put them all into little Ziploc bags, and then every single part will break down in some Apple phone or some Apple product, and there's a lot of commonality, and I'm able to sell them at 10 times what I bought them at. And he says, but is that really a business model? Can you survive? He says, sir, you just paid 9,000. Do you know how much? Do you know how much that part was? And he's actually showed me, he says the part, on a base, it's like 5 rupees or something. It's nothing. He says, you paid 100 times what that part was worth, right? And so then he says, I buy, almost 1 crore or 2 crores worth of, I don't remember the exact number, but he says, I buy that much and I sell it for 3 times the amount of what he buys an Apple product. Now, if anybody knows anything about Apple, and all of y'all are from the electronics industry, you know it's the company that's able to mark up their products in electronics the most. They sell at the highest premium, okay? Apple may be one of the few companies to hit the $1 trillion market cap at some point, okay? And here is Mr. Harish Agarwal, who sits out of Koramangala, who makes more money on an Apple product than Tim Cook does, okay? It's unbelievable. So, we have the talent, right? It's unbelievable talent that we have. So that's the first thing. The talent is there. The second thing I'll say is this. 3 months ago, I had the opportunity and the privilege of spending a couple of hours with the chairman of SoftBank, Masasan. And, I was chatting with him about the various things that he's doing. And, one of the topics we talked about was, the future of electronics in India, right? And he's clearly embedded in electronics. He's investing a huge chunk of his assets in the electronics industry. And he said, first and foremost, the 2 things. He said, IoT is going to be dramatically bigger than anybody estimates. I said, but everybody's estimating tens of billions, He says it's going to be bigger than that, is my bet. And he's been pretty good on his bet so far. The second thing he says is, guess what? He says it's going to be mostly gravitating towards the soft. The hard is going to be more soft than you think. And I said, what do you mean by that? He says, I just bought ARM. And ARM is actually the largest hardware company in my mind in the IoT space in the world, on the planet. And guess what? We don't manufacture any silicon. We just license it. We just give it to others who manufacture. So he says, there's that opportunity. Even for India, that opportunity is there to build the next ARM out of India, to build the next soft hardware company, right, out of India. And we have the talent to do that. So that's the second in my mind, right? And then the third little anecdote I'll give you is, last week I had, again, the opportunity, in my role I get to meet a bunch of folks that, are pushing the boundaries. And last week I got to spend a half hour with Mr. Mukesh Ambani. And he is driving the new network that is going to kind of flood India with data, right? And his mantra is, data is the new oil. Why does he say the new oil? Because his father built the oil refineries that kind of have dominated the Reliance Industries, right? And he feels data is the next big enabler, right? And he's betting big on that. I mean, as big as anybody is, anywhere in the planet, he's buying more telco equipment than anybody on the planet. And his argument was that, listen, I think while people keep talking about India 1, 2, 3, and everybody assumes India 3 is going to be left behind, he says, guess what? I think every Indian is going to have a device in their palm, and they're all going to be connected in the next 5, 6 years. It's going to happen faster than you think. It's going to happen even if they can't afford it. It's going to happen because that's the way you're going to do business, commerce, everything. And that's the vision I think you start to see coming out from both our leaders, even Prime Minister Modi, and even at the state level here in Karnataka, in terms of what the opportunity is in connectivity, in IoT, in just the entrepreneurial spirit. These are the three kinds of messages I would leave you with, right? From TiE, as I close here, I would like to congratulate both the TiE team. I know Arvind Tiwari is here somewhere, Som is here as well, and Venkatesh. I want to thank them for their work in putting together a directory which we'll launch shortly. They have been at not just this directory, but at building the IoT forum, building the community that is the IoT community. It really takes a village to raise an IoT startup, let me say that. No one person can do it on their own. I know we have lots of folks from academia. Professor Sadagopan is here. I think he is pushing hard at IIIT to build IoT startups, to get electronic startups coming out of that very top-grade institution. I think there's that opportunity to work with industry, to work with him. There's the opportunity for industry to work with the startup community, and that's happening through TiE and IESA and all of our partners. We're starting to see the birth of hardware accelerators that are starting to take root here. That's an important investment that both the government is supporting and private industry is putting out. I think that's fantastic. I think IESA, under the leadership of everybody, including Mr. Vidyashankar and others, have been pushing hard to help us get to the next level. I think that's an opportunity. I think we need the component industry. If any one message I would leave, I think you need to have a vibrant component industry before you can have a systems industry. I think, even for things, small things, and I'm a very small-time IoT entrepreneur myself, but even for small things like cable harnesses, things like that, we end up having to source from all over the world, right? I think some of that we need to bring here very close. It should be a huge marketplace, an eBay that's available to source all of this right here in India, near real time, with no friction of international borders and all of that, right? I think that's where we need to kind of enable. I think the government has done a lot, but there's a lot of, long journey ahead of us still. And so, we look forward to the day when we can return here and proclaim that India is one of the epicenters of IoT. Product development, I think that's the key, because a lot of IP can be created in India, and a lot of IP will be embedded in these products. So I hope one day we'll return here to this same hall, possibly, to celebrate the accomplishments of our industry in the IoT space. And I think we have a very good shot at that. So thank you all. Have a fantastic conference. And congratulations to IESA on this lovely event. Thank you.